It's been 6 months since half the population of the universe has been brought back. In an effort to regain control of the doubling in population, the Global Repatriation Council are attempting to relocate billions. But Carly Morgenthau and the Flag Smashers are having none of it. Meanwhile, John Walker has been declared the new Captain America. It's now up to Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, to stop what's coming. Welcome to Project Geekology.
Live from Republic City.
Yeah, I don't know what I was doing with that one, but it came out pretty smooth, right? Hi, my name is Dakota. I am one half of your hosts here at Project Geekology, and I'm joined as always with...
Anthony, not the Avatar.
No, not the Avatar. Today we're going to be talking all about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We're going to, try to, talk about all the major talking points in the show, talk about the ramifications for the universe at large, and we're going to try to touch upon some of the even deeper stuff that the show brings up about just the state of America and the worlds we live in. So hopefully we can do some of that justice, if not all of it. But before we begin, as we so often enjoy doing, Anthony, what have you been up to this past week?
Oh man, I'm on the gacha life, man.
Really? What are you doing?
So I have some coworkers at my new job. They played this game called Epic 7. I don't know if you've heard of that, Dakota.
I've seen trailers. For a long time, Epic 7 was the only commercial I got on YouTube.
Right. I've known about Epic 7 for a long time, and they've been telling me to get onto it. After a little while, I decided to get onto it, and now I've been playing through that, grinding and whatnot, and now that I kind of understand a little bit, one of my coworkers, they're really into it. They know what units are good with what items and this and that, so it's a little bit easier to get into it when you have somebody that understands it and can explain why this unit goes well with these items and why you should team these people up together. And I've been having a good time playing that. I've also been jumping between that. I've been playing a lot of Overwatch. I'm back on it. Every once in a while I'll get off of Overwatch, and this last stint was probably my longest away from Overwatch, maybe a few months or a little bit longer than that. But I've been back on it. I've been participating in the events that they had going on, and so I've been having fun with that. Watching the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That was preparing for this. That was a good time. I enjoyed that. So that's what I've been up to. Not too crazy, but just doing my gaming and my TV show watching. How about you? What have you been up to?
Before I go over to what I've been up to, I got a couple comments. The Epic 7, is it something that you would recommend other people play? Is it a good time? Are there a lot of units? I want to know a little more about that.
Oh, okay. So Epic 7 it's fun. So I wouldn't give Epic 7 a full yes or no. It all depends on how you feel about gachas. If you're interested in maybe something new, a different IP, it's really fun. I like it. There is a bit of a grind to it. One of the things that I like about it is that it's actually pretty generous when it comes to its in-game currency. That's the one thing about gachas. We know that a lot of these games, if you want to be able to progress fast, or if you aren't really patient, then you gotta drop money. But at least for the beginning of this, so far, they've given me a lot. Their summoning materials, but I enjoyed it. If you like something that, or if you're interested in a new IP, then go for it. I think it's really cool because it does have a story, and sometimes in the story it has these really cool animated cutscenes. And I mean, when it says when I say anime cutscenes, it's full on anime. Not That's an
cool.
episode. They're usually a few seconds, but it's so good that I'm surprised it's not an anime. It's really high quality.
So is it based on anything, or it's just the game?
No, it's not based on anything at all.
That's kind of cool.
It's the only, yeah, it's like one of the first games like that I've seen. Well, not there's a lot of gotchas that are not tied to anything, but something this high quality or something that I enjoy like this that isn't tied to another IP. Like they have the 7 Deadly Sins one, they have the Danmachi one. So it's really cool.
They have one for like everything. They have a Naruto one,
right?
One Piece. Yeah.
So this one is cool because it's not tied to anything.
Cool. And it's good to hear that you're back into Overwatch. It's funny though, like that's the sign of a good game, is that you can you can separate yourself a month out or a couple months out and come back to it and still love it.
Yeah.
Just the same. So that's pretty cool. All right. So as far as what I've been up to this past week, I listened to a new audio drama, a Star Wars audio drama called Dr. Aphra, and it's based on the first like couple comics from the Star Wars run and the Darth Vader run.
Ooh.
And the runs from 2015, so they immediately take place concurrently, the Star Wars run and the Darth Vader run, right after the Death Star is destroyed. So it's telling the story of how the rebels are trying to run from the Empire, and Darth Vader on the other side of things is trying to discover who blew up the Death Star, how it's possible that there's another person named Skywalker from Tatooine, and so on. So you're seeing Vader come to these conclusions through the eyes of this almost like Indiana Jones, like an evil Indiana Jones character named Dr. Aphra. She's like an archaeologist, a space archaeologist and thief. And she's trying to figure out Darth Vader's secret alongside Vader, basically. So it's just a really cool audio drama. So they adapt those comic runs into this audio drama from her perspective. And I had a good time. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was fun.
Nice. That sounds like something. Would you say it's worth checking out?
Yeah, it's a good time. I think the narration of the book is a little annoying, just because I kind of find her character to be a little bit annoying, Dr. Aphra. I mean, sometimes it's funny, but she's so cocky, like in literally every situation, and like her whole thing is like, I am the greatest, and I am this, and I am that. So that gets annoying after 5 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the story is really good, and some of the revelations that and like the plot about how Vader is learning all this stuff about Luke Skywalker and he's going through his past is really cool.
Nice.
So that's for that I would recommend it.
Nice.
Jen and I both watched Wreck-It Ralph and Ralph Breaks the Internet this past week, and that was the first time that she had ever watched either of those.
Oh, really?
And I had never seen the second one, so it was a fun time.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I saw that in the theater. Yeah, because I enjoyed the first one a lot, especially as a gamer. There's a lot of video game references in it.
Yeah, it is actually really good, and it's basically, if you haven't seen Wreck-It Ralph or don't know the premise of it, it's kind of the story of Toy Story, but instead of toys, it's an arcade full of arcade characters and like what they do after hours.
Yeah,
and they all kind of like hang out in like the I guess the hub. They have ways to go through the power of each of the arcade machines to like jump into each other's games and stuff. So it's kind of fun. That was a good time. And the second one is basically like the arcade is like upgrading to Wi-Fi, and they now have access to the Internet of Things. So
yeah,
that's a really fun time. Yeah, so I think that's what I've been up to. I'm positive I've done other things. You know, I also watched a couple Clone Wars, and I'm catching up slowly. I watched the episodes with where Ahsoka gets kidnapped and has to find her way off planet before being hunted by a bunch of Trandoshans.
Oh yeah,
That was a fun episode, or a couple episodes. It was, it's showing Ahsoka becoming more independent and showing her use some of the skills that she learned from Anakin, and had a fun little cameo from Chewbacca. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the further you get into that show, it gets so
keeps going.
Yeah, it gets so good.
I'm like at the tail end of season 3 now. There's no way I'm gonna make it in time for Bad Batch this coming week.
I can't wait.
The first episode of the Bad Batch, episode 1, comes out May 4th. May the 4th be with you.
Yeah, that was cool in season 7, and that I think it's pretty cool that they had such an impact that now they have their own TV show.
I think that was actually always the plan. I think it was a backdoor pilot sort of thing where like they introduced these characters, showed the people in charge that these characters could work on their own,
right?
And they jumped off from there, so that's pretty cool.
Right. They probably wouldn't have gone forward with it though if they didn't have a good reception, like if people didn't really care for them. I think it's cool. I'm definitely interested in watching to see what they do with them, and I haven't delved too deep into what it's supposed to be about, but is it supposed to be post Clone Wars or is it missions?
Yeah, it's post Clone Wars.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's directly after Order 66 and how the Empire takes control and like their role in it. And I think there's probably going to be a little bit of obviously defection. I mean, I hope it's not just a bunch of bad clones, But we'll see. Oh, well, I guess they are like a Bad Batch, so they probably wouldn't have, or they wouldn't be as hardwired into like the Order 66 thing as some of their.
Well, you know about them though,
brothers.
right? Like, I mean, you've seen them. That they pretty much look way different than the rest of the clones, and they're very much different from the other clones. The other clones, they would have their own personalities, but these ones are very different from the other clones. So that's
cool.
Yeah, like there's like this one like really huge one that's like the tank. I forgot his name.
That's awesome.
But it's
that's
cool.
Awesome.
I think once you get, I know that the later seasons of Clone Wars are amazing, but when you get to season 7, man, there's a lot of like emotional stake into it. So for me, because I love Clone Wars,
I'd be interested. I'd be interested in doing a season 7 review here on Project Ecology at some point.
Oh, for sure. Give me another reason to watch through it.
That's hilarious. All right, let's jump into Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We don't got all day here.
We only have 24 hours, and we only want to use 3 of them. 2.
I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what that means. All right, so Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like I said in our introduction to the podcast, it takes place in a world after the snap returned everyone back from basic extinction, non-existence.
Right, they call it the blip.
Yeah, in universe they call it the blip because most people probably don't realize that it was a big purple dude from another, planet that snapped half of the universe away. So I think for the average human out there, they have no idea why half of their loved ones disappeared, and I'm sure there's plenty of like in-world conspiracy theories as to the fact. But yeah, so they call it the blip in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So 6 months after that, they're still trying to figure out how to bring everyone back to normalcy. Obviously, there has to have been like a ton of chaos that ensued after that. We saw a little bit of it in WandaVision when they brought back half the universe, and we saw it like the chaos that was going on inside the hospital when Monica Rambeau was brought back. So imagine that literally everywhere in the world there probably was, looting and riots and, the opposite of what happened probably 5 years prior when everyone was blept away. So, things have kind of returned to normal, but there are billions who are displaced. Their homes are probably sold off by the banks to new buyers or whatever. People have remarried, kids have grown up. There's a bunch of different ramifications that come with the whole 6 month later thing.
Right.
What do you think would be like the hardest part about everyone coming back to life? Because there's a lot that, like, you know, you don't think about it, but in the world we live in, that's like very like, you know, it revolves around like ownership of land and familial relations and stuff like that. There's a lot of like baggage that comes with bringing everyone back to life like that.
Right. I think one of the hardest things is after a while of grieving, you know, come to this acceptance, and so you move on with your life, and then these people come back into your lives, as far as, you know, family, and your mind is probably going through a rush. It's like rambling. It's like, oh my gosh, where did this person come from? They disappeared. I thought they were gone forever. Now they're back. I don't know what to do. I'm happy to see them, but, you know, my mind was so, you know, made up that they were gone. For, you know, blood family, that it's one thing, but for marriage, I could see that being like really hard.
Yeah, imagine you're fully in love with someone, they're fully in love back, and then you suddenly wake up one day 5 years later, they have remarried, are trying to figure out what to do because, you know, they've probably already had like licenses of or certificates of death and stuff.
Right.
Like, what do you do? Yeah, so it's a crazy process. I would like to see them explore that more. I wish they did explore that more in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And I wish they did explore that a little bit more in WandaVision, too. You know, I understand WandaVision, they didn't have the luxury of doing that because it was mostly contained within a fictional reality that Wanda had constructed in Westview. But with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we do see a little bit of it. We do see a little bit of the GRC, the Global Repatriation Council camps, and like people displaced in different countries and stuff. Yeah, well, we'll talk a little bit about that. We do have in the first episode the fact that they're trying to get a loan. Sam and his sister. What's his sister's name? I forget off the top of my head. Sarah Wilson.
Yes.
So we have that. Let's talk a little bit about that because the bank does not clearly want to give them anything. And I think that they're probably doing that for everyone, you know? I feel like they're probably in a bind with everything. And I understand like where the banks are coming from, you know? Like all of a sudden, half the people that we once did business with are back. And how do we tell them we can't help you, you know?
Something that I like about that moment, though, is that the banker, it addresses superheroes and money. And he's talking about, like, well, you know, isn't there some sort of funds that, you know, Stark set up? No, these people are not getting paid money to be superheroes, you know?
Which is super funny to think about.
I mean, because these people, they have these powers. You would think that they're really rich when in all honesty it was Tony Stark that's rich, and he had this thing set up, so it really like gave off the vibe that they were making money. No, they weren't making money. How they paid for some of the stuff that they had, they never really like explore, or if it was, you know, Stark paying for everything. But yeah, that I thought that was an interesting way, and I'm glad that they added that because Sam was like, no, that's not how it works.
It's an interesting exploration, and,
right?
You know, if you really think about each individual hero and their circumstances in life,
exactly,
you can kind of like start to understand and build that picture. Like, yeah, they're clearly not being paid. You know, Peter Parker still lives with his aunt. You have Bucky Barnes, who for whatever reason doesn't even own furniture in his apartment. There's that scene where he's watching TV, and he's just sitting on the floor. That made me laugh so much. We have Steve Rogers, who probably would have gotten, pretty good pay having been in the military, but he was declared dead, so I don't think that fund necessarily still exists for him, even though he was Captain America. And in the first Avenger, we see he's living in some gym or something. So I mean, it goes throughout all the characters. We learn a little bit about them, and yeah, most of them are just doing the right thing because they want to, because they can be something more than what they are. So yeah, that was a good point, and I'm glad you brought that up because that is something that I think is very fascinating.
Yeah.
So yeah, so they did not get the funds that they need to keep the ship afloat. Her parents' ship.
Right. Their parents' shrimping boat.
Yeah.
Because they're in Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that was very Forrest Gump of them to have a shrimping boat.
Yeah.
But that was the whole purpose of them going for that loan. They wanted to get money to keep this ship going. This boat going, because I mean, it was in disrepair. They didn't have the money to fix it, and it needed a lot of fixing.
I thought about like the gall that it must have taken for the banker to tell him that we haven't seen any income from you in 5 years. Like, what? I'd be throwing fists, man. Like, obviously,
it's like the only thing that sucks for him though is that like if he got out of hand, it would have been
Avenger beats up banker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for real, it'd be like, well, I mean, did you not see? I mean, you know who I am. Do you not see what's going on? I'm helping to protect this world. And
right.
And with Bucky, I like what they're doing, or I like what they did. That they, he's got this burden on himself, and the old Asian man that he befriended and he's helping out. You eventually find out that Bucky kills his son, but it's not. But I don't think it was because he was a target, but he just happened to be there. It was wrong. Yeah, time. Exactly. The fact that Bucky sought out the father and befriended him. He's really trying to make up for what he's done.
Bucky is such a tragic character.
Yeah,
because he didn't want any of that. Obviously, nobody wants to become an assassin, ruled by Hydra, that is, kept in cryo freeze until you're ready to like hit your next target. That's terrible. But the fact that he actually remembered all of those faces, all the people that he killed, is kind of just it's a worse burden, honestly, than just forgetting about it. So yeah, there was some really gut-wrenching Winter Soldier moments.
Yeah, there is. The thing that I like about the Winter Soldier, though, is that in a lot of ways that is very relatable, because I mean, while you and I haven't gone out and assassinated a bunch of people, there's been there might be moments in our lives where something that we might do something that we're not exactly happy about, and so in our minds we might get into a place to where we feel like we have to do something to make up for it, when really Sam did he gave him pretty much the perfect thing. Like, you're trying to go to these people and say sorry, instead of saying it, just serve them, help them out in any way that they can. And Bucky was able to do that for the old Asian man by confessing that, hey, the reason why your son died was because I killed him.
Yeah.
And that was a sad moment.
Yeah, no, there were a couple really sad moments. When you first realize what he's doing for the old man and why he's doing it, in the first episode, that's that's a place I did not expect the MCU to ever go. But the MCU is a constant surprise, even for like big fans like you or I. You know, like
Right. I mean, with
there's so much.
WandaVision.
Nobody expected a sitcom-based television series, but here we are. We live in a world post WandaVision. We live in a world post Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where we get to explore some of the crazier things.
We got Loki next.
Yeah, with Loki too. Like we're getting all of these shows that you wouldn't get stories of in the movies. You know, like
Right.
it's really fascinating. And so with this conversation, I don't think we're going to be going necessarily in a chronological order, because I think we're going to be talking about just the major arcs of each character, some of the side plots, some of the major plots, because already we've jumped back and forth like several times from the beginning to the end. Let's talk about the resolution with Sam Wilson and his family. And I really liked that subplot quite a bit. I really like the fact that he's just such a down-to-earth guy, and he's trying to do what's best for his family.
I know, man. Dude, Sam is such a likable character. And the more the show progresses, you start to realize why Captain America chose him. He didn't see it himself, but Steve Rogers saw that, and that's why he passed the shield off to Sam. And Bucky sees it over the period of time too, and Bucky had we find out the reason why Bucky had beef for Sam. Sam turns the shield over to the government because he feels that he doesn't own it, that he shouldn't own it, and Bucky has real strong dislike of that because he feels he says if Steve was wrong about you, then he was wrong about me.
And I love how Captain America is the benchmark of the good, kind-hearted person in the universe, because he really is. You know, he's the Superman, Clark Kent type character of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Obviously, he doesn't have Superman's powers or anything, but the actual idea of like a big blue Boy Scout in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Captain America is that guy.
Right.
He has a moral compass that always points north, and I love characters like that, man. And you have so much respect for Captain America and the I guess what he stands for, not just America.
Language.
Right. Yeah. Did he just say language?
I know. That was awesome. But yeah, no.
I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that. Yeah, Captain America. He is such a great character.
I love the fact that everyone respects him too. In that respect, you know, like they all see that they respect his judgment. So Bucky is so content in like leaving the shield up to Sam because it was Steve's desire,
right,
that he doesn't question it one bit, because you know he respects Steve's judgment so much. I love that about everyone on the show, you know, but like Bucky especially because he grew up with him before he was a super soldier.
Right. For Bucky there is a stronger emotional foundation there, because Bucky knew Steve when he was like this like tiny little skinny guy.
yeah, I can do this all day.
And so, you know, somebody who pushed hard to get to where he was. I mean, we saw Steve. I mean, you go to see him in Captain America: The First Avenger, and he was always that person that was pushing hard. He wanted to make sure that he's the smallest guy out there, but he wants to show that he can keep up, you know. And so he gets to this character, he becomes this character that everybody respects so much, and you know, through that hard work. And so I can't blame Bucky for looking up to Captain America so much, because he gave him the benefit of the doubt, you know. Especially throughout Winter Soldier, Bucky had no control over his actions, and instead of, you know, Captain America chasing after him, or like trying to take him down. He wants to catch him and try to figure out what's going on. Why are you doing this stuff?
Yeah, I totally agree. And not just Winter Soldier, but like Cap sticks his head out for Bucky in Civil War.
Oh yeah,
and goes against the Avengers basically. So yeah, there's so much to like explore from the mind of Bucky and like why he feels the way he does about his friends and stuff. So I love that so much.
Yeah. They're both really good characters. And
yeah,
the thing that I like about the MCU, and they've done such a fantastic job so far at this, is taking characters that people don't really care for in the comics. I mean, before the MCU, people really didn't care for, the Winter Soldier or Bucky or the Falcon or Vision.
Heck, even Iron Man. Iron Man was a C tier character.
Goodness, Iron Man. Iron Man was like, we knew who Iron Man was, but nobody cared about Iron Man. I feel like, the top of the list was what, X-Men maybe?
Spider-Man.
And Spider-Man, yeah. Spider-Man, Fantastic Four.
Daredevil was more popular than Iron Man at one point.
Yeah. So, I do like that they've done that, and they've made these characters. I like Sam and Bucky. They're very different characters, but there's something that draws them together that they make it feel so natural. Like they play off of each other's strengths,
Oh, they have such chemistry, and I think that's the reason like this show even exists,
right?
Because as soon as they meet each other, I think it was in Civil War.
Oh, when they're sitting in the back seat.
Yeah,
they're not like
they
small,
hate each other.
Yeah, they're. Oh my gosh, I love that. Yeah, that they did really good, and the transition from the disdain to the mutual respect was such a good natural, like it for me it didn't feel like a light switch. It felt gradual,
Totally, yeah.
I think that they did fantastic. I think that Anthony Mackie he's done a fantastic job as well. Now Captain America, and Sebastian Stan. I mean, he's got this presence. They both have this presence when you see them on the screen, and this chemistry that's fantastic. And I mean, it was a good show. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it started off a little slow, but I mean, that's usually how TV shows start off these days.
I also think that the show, I think it's a good show. I don't think it's a great show.
Right.
And we'll talk about a little bit of like our problems with it. But one of my favorite scenes actually opens up one of the episodes. It's the scene where Bucky is in Wakanda and he they're doing the Winter Soldier, I guess, keywords that like unlock his assassin mind, but this is after the fact that
right, like they like deprogrammed him essentially.
Yeah, Shuri deprogrammed him, and it's crazy. That was probably some of the best acting on the show is Sebastian Stan as Bucky Barnes realizing that he's no longer the Winter Soldier and that he's free. He's finally free of that burden. That really touched me. Like, I really found that was really powerful storytelling in the MCU.
It was.
So I love that kind of stuff.
And that fear that he showed. I mean, you saw that he was really afraid when he was hearing the words. Like, he was afraid that he was going to snap into that Winter Soldier mode. Like, I mean, he was kind of bracing for it. And then, when he realized that he was free, that emotional, just like kind of breakdown was, I agree. It was some really good acting. Yeah.
So, I mean, we have some returning characters that we should talk about. While we're on the subject of Wakanda, we have some of the Dora Milaje that come back.
That was cool.
Florence Kasumba as Ayo. She comes back, and she's kind of like the main one that he's interacting with, and she's the one who, performs the, reads off the words that would normally make him the Winter Soldier. So it was really cool, and that's like part of the cool thing about like Phase 4 and the shows and stuff, is that you get to explore the wider world of Marvel. You know, like
Right.
we get to go over to Latvia, and we have Baron Zemo, we have Wakanda and Dora Milaje characters, and then you have Emily Van Camp, who plays Sharon Carter. She's back. We haven't seen her since Civil War.
Right, yeah, it's been a while.
They introduced Madripoor, which is a fictional city from the Marvel comics that might play a big role later on down the line. But that's for another conversation.
That was cool. I actually liked that moment in the TV show. It was cool.
It had a cool vibe.
It was cool. It showed more of like an underworld of the Marvel world, you know. And it was like
definitely.
very. It wasn't like over the top. It felt very natural. Like it was like, oh, this place could very, very much exist anywhere in the world.
Right. We also got a cameo from Don Cheadle in the first episode as Sam is giving up the shield.
Oh
back
yeah,
to
that's
America.
right. Yeah.
Don Cheadle shows up for a brief little thing. It's a weird kind of thing, but it makes sense in character for him because he works for the U.S. Air Force. So yeah, I love how they're just building out this world, and they're building it out of the events that have previously occurred, like in Endgame and Infinity War. And because this is a post-Endgame thing, specifically 6 months after the fact, we have a changed world with new rules, and you know we have to talk about the Global Repatriation Act. We talked a little bit about what they're planning, but there is a group that actively wants that to stop. They feel like this is infringing on the freedom and like the life that they made during the 5-year blip. And that's the Flag Smashers. It's kind of interesting that they're called Flag Smashers because that is a comic book group, a villain group in the comics that are actually flag smashing terrorists. I think their introduction into the comics, they were actually smashing flagpoles and stuff, which is kind of a funny thing to do. But I don't know that, like, Jen made a good point to me. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen people burn or destroy flags even in movies. Like, you see it like on YouTube or whatever, but like in a Hollywood movie, do they ever like destroy flags? Because I don't remember ever seeing that.
Right. And I don't know,
It
like
might be-
I felt like I felt like that name for that organization just didn't go well.
It didn't fit. No,
It didn't
and
fit,
Their whole
yeah.
goal, because I don't think they were for like destroying sovereign borders or anything like that. I don't think they were about like bringing down governments. They just didn't like the Repatriation Council, which was almost like a UN sort of thing.
Right. It was essentially like a UN side project to get everybody that moved, you know, it's like everybody that survived the blip, and if they're in a place that they're not supposed to be, quote unquote, you know, living in somebody else's house, that they move to these relocation camps, you know. And
Yeah.
in a way, I don't blame them, because it almost sounds like a concentration camp. You know, you're putting these people in camps, internment camps. Is it the same way? It you know, would have been the same thing? Probably not. But putting all these people into a camp, that just doesn't sound all that good, you know. And
Yeah.
Sam has like a good moment about that towards the end of the show.
It's interesting. Like, you're not supposed to hate the Flag Smashers.
Right.
But you're not supposed to actively like them or agree with them. So a lot of the entire show is viewing the Flag Smashers as, and Carly Morgenthau specifically, as this terrorist organization. And they're a threat that Sam and Bucky have to deal with alongside John Walker, who we'll get to in a minute. But we find out that they've taken the super soldier serum thanks to some guy in Madripoor who figured out the serum and has been making it.
Yeah.
Or they give Baron Zemo the idea and like know-how to break himself out of prison, and he does. And I love Zemo so much.
I know
really do.
so the last time we see Zemo in Winter Soldier, you want to not like him. You know, like he was like a clear villain. But then they put him into this show, and then you like him. And then they have an extended cut of him on the internet dancing because people wanted it.
Which, I love the internet because that exists, and people can like actually request stuff like that nowadays, like the whole Justice League Snyder cut, and now they're doing the Restore the Snyderverse thing, and yeah, the fact that they restored the Zemo cut was hilarious. So,
Oh my gosh, I don't know if have you seen it?
yeah, it's like 20 seconds or something of him dancing on the dance floor.
It's a lot longer than like what we got in the show, but I absolutely love it because like you could tell that like, you know, it was just him like dancing, and then I guess they decided like what part to like cut out to put into the actual TV show. But it was like so good because like I could see that being used as like promotional material. Like, you want to see more of this? Go watch the Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then you just see Zemo so dancing. Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
but
so
yeah,
funny.
they make Zemo like very likable, but then they also bring you back to the Earth to make you realize that he's a villain, because I mean he does have his moments where he's like, oh well, this girl, she has to die. You know, he's like, Harley has to die.
Yeah, and well, it's Daniel Brühl, his Helmut Zemo character is such an interesting one because he's not evil,
right?
But he's not good. He has a sense of justice that is very like non-wavering, and it's harsh.
Right. So, it's with the super soldiers. He's like, you know, we don't want he doesn't want these super soldiers. Like, he doesn't like that Hydra was creating them, and you know, he was doing everything he can to stop them. You know, he doesn't want these super soldiers in the world messing things up and, you know, essentially, you know, killing people. And it is crazy because he does have this sense of justice, but it's like Thanos. Like, Thanos had this, like, what he had a noble thought in his mind, but the way he was going about it was the wrong way. You know, same thing with Zemo. You know, they make these. The MCU has done a really good job in like taking villains, and you're like, man, I like this person. You know, like Ulysses Claw, like you like. I mean, come on, dude. Like, you like him too.
Yeah.
So, Zemo, you know,
Killmonger's another one.
Yeah, he comes along, and it's like at first you couldn't stand him, but then by the end of the show, you love him.
But he does a lot of things that like seem contrary to the plot, but actually make sense in character for him. Because and I love that when they're capable of making characters have individual goals. You know, they can work as a collective, but individually they each have their own goals. And Baron Zemo, his sole goal is to get rid of any and all super soldiers except for Captain America, because I think several times in the show they mention the fact that there's only been one good super soldier. It's only worked once, and it was Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
And I think it ultimately comes down to who you are before you take the serum. You know, it just amplifies what's already there.
I like it when Bucky and Sam get together with him and they go to that plane, and they're like, they'll be like, "You've been rich this whole time while you're in jail?" He said, "Well, I am a baron."
I love that. Yeah. Oh man.
Man. Zemo. Oh man.
The best Zemo scene is when the Dora Milaje come to, I think it's Latvia, and they break down the door, and they're fighting John Walker, and Sam and Falcon are like in on it too, and Zemo's just there drinking tea. It's like the Baby Yoda meme where he's like drinking a cup of soup.
Yeah.
And he just like walks out like these idiots. Yeah, I love that.
I know
Let's go.
He does such a great job.
Let's go back to the Flag Smashers because I think it's interesting. Do you think that they were based on anything in like reality or like people that we see in reality?
I think that there is some, maybe not as extreme, but I can see a resemblance of them wanting to essentially create like a united world, and I think that's really what the name comes from, is that it's a metaphoric flag smashing. So instead of there being individual countries, it's more of a united world. Not saying that the countries are gone, but that the world isn't separated as it is today. And there are people out there that want a more united world. Maybe not in the same way that they do on a TV show, but I do see some like resemblance in that kind of way. I don't know. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I see extremist personality, you know, and I think based on, I think it's Lamar or Battlestar, he tells John Walker that the super soldier serum just kind of amplifies what's already there. So if you are willing to commit violence for what you think is right, then the extreme of that will be terrorism. You know?
Yeah.
And in some instances, they are terrorists. You know, they blow up a building with people in it.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
some of them have some problems with that. You know, they don't all have the same conviction that Carly Morgenthau has. Now, do I think Carly Morgenthau is a bad person or wants to harm people? That's another question. And I don't think that she's bad, but she's definitely, at least the show portrays her as someone who has gone too far in her pursuit for what she thinks is right.
Yeah.
I think we see, you know, groups pop up in America and around the world, revolutionaries or political activists that many will brand as extremists or terrorists. And I think that was kind of the intention of the Flag Smashers, is to just kind of like shine a light on that without pointing the finger at any one group that exists in today's political climate in the world or whatever. But it's interesting to show that they're not necessarily bad people, but they have made poor choices in their their attempt to try and do what's right. So that was interesting to me. I liked where they were going with that. Did you like Carly Morgenthau as a character, or did you find her like more annoying? Because she was always kind of on the more annoying side for me.
I feel like she was back and forth. Sometimes she could be this character that seemed like she was throwing a tantrum.
Right.
And then there's those moments where she would go through with something and even she wasn't 100% on board with it. And you could tell that she had reservations for some of the things that she did.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I did like some of the other characters in the Flag Smashers. Like there was one named Dovich, played by Desmond Chiam. I really liked him as a character. I thought that he was just the most level-headed of the super soldier Flag Smasher dudes. One thing that I want to bring out that you may not have noticed, but is kind of apparent when you like watch the show with this in mind, is that they definitely cut a lot of the story out of like what the goal of the Flag Smashers was. So in the second episode, when they find Carly Morgenthau on the truck, Bucky, he goes, they're shipping medicine, vaccines, and that is kind of a weird thing. And then later on, we have some characters in both Madripoor, and we see some Flag Smashers wearing face masks, like medical face masks. We have Carly Morgenthau's mentor was a character named Donya Madani, and she ends up dying from some unknown illness that, like, while she's on like some bedspread in a room full of other really sick individuals. Now, we have no idea what this sickness is, but even in the credits of the show, we have like biohazard symbols like popping up here and there. So it's pretty clear they had more of a subplot involving some sort of virus or illness or contagion that they either refilmed or cut out of the show entirely, which explains why some of their stuff is a little hollow. You know, right. A lot of the story and the goal is kind of hard to explain, and you really have to dig deep into it. But I think because we, live in a world where we have been in and out of lockdown, some countries have been in and out of lockdown for over a year now, I think they decided to just not try and make it as timely as possible and cut the sickness bit out of it.
Like they're trying to avoid a touchy subject.
Yeah, which I don't think necessarily would have been touchy subject, but I think a lot of people would have assumed, because it was coming out after or like during COVID, that they made the show as a response to COVID. But I guess in my mind, I think the biggest reason I think that they cut that out was specifically because none of the main characters or the actors on screen are doing any type of social distancing or wearing face masks or doing anything, and that could be seen as bad publicity for Marvel. You have a bunch of characters in a pandemic not abiding by CDC regulations. So I think they just cut that out of the story. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah,
I don't know. I mean,
that. Yeah, no, I wasn't. I guess I wasn't really looking at that or really paying attention to that. I was paying attention to the bigger parts of the story, but that is a good little tidbit that you noticed there.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I kind of wish we could see that kind of story. I feel like the show would be better if we did have that. But I think Marvel was just trying, if not just relatable, then cohesive. The Flag Smashers would have a more understandable goal. Like, are they spreading a virus? Are they trying to stop a virus that was created by people coming back from the blip? What's going on? We have no idea.
Right.
So, and that's one of those things we might not ever know. But let's talk about John Walker.
Yes, I knew that we needed to get to that point. Yeah, we get John Walker as the new Captain America at the end of episode 1, and of course that's a shocking reveal. You see a whole bunch of people posting online and they're making fun of it that John Walker was on screen for like 5 seconds and everybody hated him, and then the actual villain or an actual villain in the MCU is more loved than John Walker.
It's true though. Like, what's up with that?
I know, right?
What are your thoughts on John Walker, or as Captain America? And did you ever feel like you related to him, or you?
I don't think that I felt like I related to him, but I do feel like his character, and in your words, and not so much like Bucky, but I feel like his character is kind of a tragic character too, because he is trying to live up to this icon, and I feel bad because it is really hard to fill those shoes, and he realizes that, and so he makes that decision to take that serum to become a super soldier. He wants to become more like Captain America, and I feel like his ideals are in the right place, but his execution is not. Like, he wants to be good, he wants to do the right thing, but he's not doing the right thing. And the serum the serum already took his skewed way of doing things and made it worse.
Yeah, it's interesting because he's a military man. He's trained to engage encounters a certain way. He's very much like a get in and get out as quick as possible, and finish the fight before it's begun type of guy. And he approaches fights that way. You know, he approaches Carly Morgenthau at like the funeral of what's her name, Danya Madani, and everyone else is like trying to tell him, just give Sam 10 minutes, just give him 10 minutes to talk her down, you know. And he's just like, he's pacing around like, no, I can't, I gotta do it. And he's very much he's trained to be a leader, you know. He's led people into battle. He's, you know, according to his friend Lamar, that is his name, right?
Yeah, Lamar, aka Battlestar.
Yeah, he's consistently making the right decisions in the heat of battle. But the heat of battle, when it comes to a public setting versus wartime, is very different. And I think that gets kind of like lost in translation when a lot of people are viewing him as a villain of sorts, you know?
Right. Like with Steve, he had learned a good way of, he learned how to resolve things without taking without taking force, you know, without using force. Right. And that was what Sam was trying to do. And this is where you see what Captain America saw, that Sam was trying to talk his way. He was trying to be diplomatic, and he was breaking through, you know, to Carly, and Carly was starting to come around. And then this is where, the military training kicks in for Walker, and he goes in and just like completely destroys everything.
Yeah, I really did like the hesitation that he had for taking the super soldier serum. He knew that there had only ever been one good super soldier, and that was Steve Rogers. He didn't know if he could live up to that, and I don't think he ever thought that he could live up to Steve Rogers' legacy. And I even like from the beginning of the show, when they introduce you to John Walker, he's not a bad guy, you know? He's just the guy that they picked.
Right. In the locker room, right? And he seems like an upstanding guy. And at the end of the day, at the end of the show, I still don't think that he's that bad of a guy. I just think that he made poor decisions, you know, that obviously had repercussions to them. But I don't think that he's a bad guy by the end of the show. I mean, you see what happens at the end of the show with him. Yeah,
well, we'll get in on that a little bit later. But when it comes to him taking the serum and then kind of going like roid rage crazy and killing one of those guys in like a public setting with everyone and their cameras on. First of all, what a great scene. Like, it's like one of those things you will never expect what's coming next in the MCU. I did not expect someone to be bludgeoned to death by a shield, by Captain America.
Right. That's like on par with like if you saw Superman in public just like beating a guy to death.
Right. That it's just, not that I like that obviously, but it's just so shocking. And it makes for good TV because you're wondering like next week what's gonna happen. What are they gonna do? They're gonna revoke his title as Captain America probably.
Right.
And you know they do. So, but what I like about that courtroom scene is he actually says something along the lines of "You made me. This is what you did to me." You know, like you've ingrained these fighting techniques and values in me for years, and you've rewarded me. But now that I am this icon, you're taking it away from me. And
right.
Yeah, it's
right.
It's such a bizarre thing.
Right. Like they praised him for doing, or, you know, they praised him for, you know, taking action during a wartime setting. You know, he does have a right to be outraged in a way because this is what he's known through his life, you know, neutralizing an enemy, and this person was pretty much an enemy. It's just since he had the suit on, this is why he was being ostracized. If it was in any other setting,
I mean, it was also an act of revenge, which is something not super heroic,
right?
You know?
Right.
he was emotionally compromised because his best friend and partner for, I'm assuming, many years, Battlestar, was killed by one of these people, and he wanted to take revenge. So I mean, there's multiple sides you can look at it. Obviously, he wasn't a great guy, but he wasn't a bad guy, and I think you can look at a lot of the characters in this show with that light. And I think what's fascinating and what's so human about it is that people are like that. Nobody is 100% good. They each have their own values, goals, things that they want to get done at the expense of others. So it's it's a balancing act, and you're what the Falcon and the Winter Soldier does so well is trying to explain some of that by showing you they could be really good, they could be really bad,
right?
And at the end of the day, they're just very human.
Exactly. And the thing that I like about this show is that it really does show that not everything is black and white, and that there are people that are seemingly good that do make bad decisions.
Right.
And
yeah, absolutely.
And you can tell that he does realize that he did wrong. Yeah. And I think that's what, that's important for his character. And we're obviously going to talk more about how the show ends in a little bit. But you do see him trying to make an effort to rectify that.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, we'll sideline that conversation because we should talk about both Isaiah Bradley and Sharon Carter before we close up our discussion. Isaiah Bradley is a character they've never introduced previously in the MCU. It's a character that apparently at one point got in a scuffle with Bucky and whooped his butt. So that being said, it's a character that from his own personal experience was treated so poorly, and the show makes it seem as though, and it probably was, because he was black. He was a black super soldier in a world that still suffers from systemic racism. And I think it's such an interesting thing because you and I, Anthony, we were born in Southern Florida. We were both raised in very, diverse neighborhoods. So we grew up in a world that was post civil rights movement. We always went to schools and stuff with black classmates and black friends, and we never really experienced or at least from our point of view, I'll just say from my point of view, I never noticed systemic racism growing up, because we were told that we had moved past that as a society.
Right.
But the more that we, live to experience such things and see stuff unfold in, the real world and how people are treated, it's becoming more and more apparent that systemic racism from the ground up is ingrained in our culture, and it's truly unfortunate. But I really appreciate and applaud Falcon and the Winter Soldier for touching on super touchy subjects.
Yeah.
Sometimes they went really hard on it, and sometimes they, it was just part of the nature of the show, because you're dealing with a new character who is going to become the first black Captain America, So it's really...
Right. And they, and sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
They did have those moments where, remember, one of the little kids are like, "Oh, hey, it's the Black Falcon," and he's like, "No, it's just the Falcon. What do you want me to go call you, Black Kid?" Like that. So I do think that it's important. It was important to like that it made him, that it shows him who he is. Like, they call him the Falcon, that's who he is. It's, it doesn't, it's not, because of, the color of his skin. It's because of that's who he is. That's his character. You know, it's not, oh, he's black this, it's black that, you know, it's that he's the Falcon, you know, just like when he takes on the mantle of Captain America, he's Captain America, not Black Captain America, you know?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing for the show, and it's a powerful thing for the show to actually address. Sometimes I think they were a little heavy-handed and like kind of ham-fisted with some of the like side characters saying, "Nah, man, that's Captain America." I get it, like, you know, the symbolic meaning of it, but I appreciate that they went there,
Right.
if only just to address the elephant in the room. And you know, as two white guys on a podcast, I don't think we have like all that much that we can say about this particular subject, besides the fact that I feel for the struggles that we see in our day-to-day lives for other people, as well as the fictional people in these shows. And Isaiah Bradley is one of those characters that was just treated so poorly because of who he was, because of the color of his skin. And, you know, we didn't know about the character specifically because of the fact that it was just a black super soldier and the government wanted to suppress him.
Right.
You know? And a big part of the show was him telling Sam that no one's ever going to accept a black Captain America. But I guess it was Sam's ultimate, destiny within the show to prove everyone wrong, you know?
Right.
This is definitely a tougher subject to, you know, talk about, but the fact that it exists in an MCU product is pretty amazing. You know, I keep going back to the fact that like the MCU can tell human stories with superheroes, and they can tell, they can really shine a light on real world problems with superheroes. You know, and I love that about the MCU. I love that Falcon and the Winter Soldier went there. I would love to see more of Isaiah Bradley. I think that he's such an interesting character, and I liked what they did at the end of it.
Yeah.
Where
I like what Sam did for his character. I think it was really cool, and like that emotional impact that it had on him, and you know, he felt appreciated for, you know, really what he did, because he's a military man.
Yeah, he served his country, but was shunned for whatever reason, obviously. So, yeah, it was a really powerful moment. I think some of the writing, like I said, it was a little more ham-fisted in certain scenes, especially the last episode. But at the end of the day, it's the next chapter of the Captain America saga, and I'm excited to be here for it. You know. We should really quick talk about Sharon Carter and how she is somehow the power broker, the most powerful person in Madripoor.
I know.
Didn't see that coming.
I know. Sharon Carter's character, that was a twist right there.
I think by the end it wasn't surprising, like when they finally revealed that she was the power broker. Because you could kind of see that she wasn't the same.
Right. They dropped a couple things here and there throughout the series, but it still kind of smacks you when you find out that she's like a full-blown villain, pretty much.
Yeah. So, how much time did she have? Like, if she had not been blipped away, how much time was she on the run? So we know that Civil War took place in like April of 2016. Then 2 years later was the blip. So we don't know if she was blipped away or not. So 2 plus 5 is 7, plus another 6 months. So hypothetically, she could have been on the run in Madripoor, being this power broker person for 7.5 years. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and so I know that a lot of the reason why she is the way she is resentment for, because I mean, she did serve in the U.S. government, and while she did do something that they deemed, I guess, like treason or something, I mean, what she did was that she got in trouble because she took the shield, right, and gave it to Cap.
Yeah, I think so.
So it's really like resentment, and you see it more so like at the end, like the very end. But yeah, her character her character was a surprising character, because at first you're like, oh, okay, you know, she seems like a great character, but then the show gradually reveals that she's not the person that you remember that she was in Civil War.
Right. I am curious about where they're going with that. I'm also curious about what they're doing with John Walker as the U.S. agent. We have Julia Louis-Dreyfus,
right,
who, from Seinfeld and Veep fame, coming into the Marvel Cinematic Universe all of a sudden. Like, what is she up to? I'm really curious. So we'll see. I'm assuming we'll see more of that in either Falcon and Winter Soldier Season 2 or in maybe Cap 4, because they did announce that, or it wasn't officially announced, but it's rumored that a Captain America 4 is in the works.
Right, yeah, I saw that, and it makes sense, especially with the ending of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Sam finally takes up the mantle. We have Bucky, who asked a favor of the Wakandans to make a special new suit with vibranium for Sam Wilson. He doesn't have any superpowers, so he is, reliant on their technology, and they deliver. They make him an awesome Captain America Star-Spangled suit, and the wings are really cool. They, like, in the fight scene, he's able to literally stop a truck with the wings of vibranium. So that's pretty cool.
That was really cool. And because his wings get destroyed earlier in the season, so that was cool that they ended up giving him that. And so, I mean, he's Captain America, but he has those wings. Still, does that make him Captain Falcon?
Right? Yeah, I'm curious about that. Obviously,
he's Captain Falcon.
He's just going to be... I think he's just going to be called Captain America.
Yeah, no, of course.
Will a second season of this show be Captain America and the Winter Soldier? No, you can't, because that's the name of one of the movies. Would it be Falcon and the Winter Soldier Season 2, or would they change the name of it entirely?
Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Captain Falcon. Captain Winter and
Falcon Punch.
What did you think of the finale and the final fight and everything?
I liked it. I liked it because it was a culmination of everything happening. Sam finally takes up the mantle of Captain America, and it shows him training. He's back at home in Louisiana before that, training, working really hard. And you see him trying to pull off a lot of these moves that Steve would do, with the shield, doing the flips. That was a pretty cool montage there. It was cool. It got to that. It showed this. It showed his skills that he was training on in this finale, that he was working so hard on. Bucky was over there. Their friendship is pretty much, they're solid now. And it's funny though, because they still, towards the end, they were joking hey, oh no, we're not friends, we're more acquaintances, if that.
Yeah.
Kind of joking around that. So I like it by then, because Bucky, they have that. I really like that heart to heart that they have prior to that training.
Yeah.
That Bucky, that's when he reveals what his. I think that was when he revealed that was his why he was so upset about Sam giving away the shield, and Sam essentially was telling him to not let that be. I guess to not let something like that hold him back. Mm-hmm. And then Bucky helping Sam to kind of step into the mantle of Captain America, and Bucky was starting to see it. He's at that point, he sees what Steve sees, and that's why that's why he went to go give him that suit. He put in that order for that suit. I like how these people just put in orders to Wakanda, hey, can I get this? And then this whole brand new suit for Sam.
Okay, so we have to ask, is Steve Rogers on the moon? Because that's brought up several times. It's almost like they're trying to hint that that's a future like plot line down the line. Like old man Steve is just chilling out on a moon base. I would love to see something like that. I don't know. I have no idea what that's all about. But it is kind of funny, like thinking about like the conspiracy theories that would exist in a world with superheroes.
Yeah, I like that. It's almost like the Walt Disney in the
Oh yeah, being frozen in ice or cryo frozen so that like he can come back to life and run Disney as a head or something.
Yeah. So yeah, we kind of talked a little bit about Bucky and Sam and how they ended up the show. When it finally does end, they changed the name from the Falcon and the Winter Soldier to Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and almost a Captain Falcon there. And so I thought that was cool. I like that they did that. And Sam and Bucky, they come to stop the Flag Smashers because so they're trying to kill the GRC. Take them. They had this whole plan where they would take over the building and put them into these police vehicles, and then the police vehicles would be pretty much intercepted by Carly. And so there's this whole crazy fight, and then John Walker comes dressed up as Captain America with this makeshift shield that ends up getting like really battered by the end of the fight. Yeah. And he's like trying to take him down and fight, and like super angry. Towards the end, he teams up with Sam and Bucky to stop Carly. Walker and Bucky, they ended up getting into a fight with a super soldier, and then Sam got into it with Carly, but then Carly runs away a little bit, and then she gets stopped by Sharon, where Sharon kind of reveals like this like whole plot that she had, revealed what had happened, and that she was pretty much a full on villain, and Sharon ends up killing Carly
right
in a scuffle, and this is where we realize that Sharon is evil. Well, Sharon is bad. She's a villain. So towards the end, Sharon, she gets pardoned by the government, and she
but she's still the power broker.
Right. So she calls somebody up saying like, hey, I'm going to get all of these government secrets and start selling them out. So I think we've covered everything.
Yeah, I think so. At least everything worth discussing.
Yes.
So, thank you guys so much for tuning in to Project Geekology today. We were thinking about doing a poll for this week, but I think we're both unanimous in the fact that we really want to cover Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring next.
Yes.
Am I right, Anthony?
Yes.
Let's just do it. Let's just next week we're covering Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring. Extended cuts. So if you want to catch up on Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, be sure to watch the extended cut because that's what we're going to be discussing.
Oh,
Might
course.
be a long episode. Bring some popcorn.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to us here at Project Geekology for our 27th episode. Next week, Dakota and I will be covering Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. So be sure to watch that in advance of our discussion, and that will be the extended edition. Be sure to find all links to our socials in the show notes so that you can keep up to date on all Project Geekology news and updates. If you enjoyed today's show, share it on social media, review it on your preferred podcast application, or talk to us directly online.
All right. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.
Bye.